Have you ever really thought about the journey fuel takes before it ends up in your car? Well, Kenya just rolled out a massive new set of regulations, and they're designed to track every single liter, from the moment it gets to the country to the second you pump it. It's a really ambitious plan to tackle everything from tax evasion to making sure the fuel is high quality. So let's break down exactly how they're planning to pull this off.
I mean, it's a huge logistical challenge, right? The answer, at least according to Kenya's regulators, is pretty simple. Data. A ton of it. The big idea here is to build a digital paper trail that's so complete it creates a system of accountability like they've never had before.
The agency behind all this is the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, or EPRA, as you'll see it called. What they've done is they've put out new legal notices that force every single player in the supply chain to report super detailed information, which creates that digital trail we're talking about for all petroleum products. All right, so let's actually follow the fuel. The very first stop on its journey into Kenya is, of course, the port.
The second a big tanker ship docks, the tracking system officially kicks in. This is literally ground zero for these new regulations. And from this moment, every single importer is on the clock. By the 10th of every single month, importers now have to file a really detailed report. And we're talking specifics here. Exactly what kind of fuel it is, where it came from, the name of the ship that brought it in, and where its final destination is. It's all about creating this clear, undeniable record right from the very start.
And this is the actual document they use, Form 2. It's not just some simple summary either. It demands super granular detail for every single shipment, leaving basically no room for guesswork.
Okay, so once it's off the ship, the fuel moves into these massive storage depots. And, you guessed it, the reporting absolutely continuous. Every storage facility now has to provide a monthly snapshot. They've got to report how much they can hold, their precise GPS location, how much fuel is left at the end of the month, and, this is crucial, any stock they've lost along the way. This basically creates a national, real-time inventory of fuel.
You know, the regulations even get surprisingly technical. They actually make a distinction between operational stock, that's the fuel you can actually use, and dead stock, which is basically the sludge at the bottom of the tank that can't be pumped out. Every liter has to be accounted for, even the bits that can't be used. From the depots, a lot of the fuel travels across the country through this vast network of pipelines. And as you can imagine, this critical transit link is also under the microscope now. So, using this Form 3, pipeline operators report their own inventory, including the fuel that's constantly just sitting inside the pipeline, which is known as line fill, as well as any losses that might happen during transport. Okay, so the fuel has been imported, it's been stored, and it's been piped across the country. Let's move to the next stage and see how this data trail keeps building, all the way to your local petrol station.
And this is where the data chain gets even more connected. Wholesalers have to report who they sold their fuel to, and retailers, they have to report who they bought their fuel from. See? It creates this perfect closed loop, making it so much harder for illegal or low-quality fuel to sneak into the market. And get this, the new rules don't just cover the fuel itself. They also completely overhaul how and where petrol stations can even be built. It's now this tightly controlled four-step process, from just getting a construction permit all the way to finally getting a license to operate. And the rules get incredibly specific. For instance, if you want to build a new station on a major highway, a Class A road, it has to be at least 2 kilometers away from the nearest competitor. This is really designed to prevent too many stations from popping up in one place and to make sure new ones are both viable and safe. So what happens if these rules are broken? Or, what if there's an accident? Well, the regulations are very, very clear about compliance and the pretty steep consequences for not following them. 48 hours. That's it. That's the maximum amount of time any licensed operator has to report a serious accident or incident to EPRA. The clock starts ticking the very moment it happens.
And we're not talking about minor issues here. A reportable incident is very strictly defined. We're talking about any event involving a loss of life, significant property damage, an oil spill of just 100 liters, or any kind of fire. Any of those automatically triggers this mandatory reporting.
This right here is Form 7, the incident report. It requires all the details, the location, the product involved, the scale of the damage, and a full description of what went down. It's all about immediate transparency so they can start an investigation right away.
Now, ignoring these rules, yeah, that comes at a steep price.
Deliberately failing to submit data, or even worse, submitting false data, can get you a hefty fine of up to 1 million Kenya shillings.
But that financial penalty isn't even the only threat. For really serious or repeat offenders, EPRA has the power to suspend or even completely revoke a company's license to operate. And that's the ultimate consequence.
So when you put all these pieces together, you start to see the bigger picture, right? This isn't just about paperwork. It's about building a comprehensive, live updated ledger of the country's entire fuel supply. The end goal is a safer, more transparent market that, at the end of the day, protects both consumers and the environment.
Ultimately, this is what it all comes down to. Every single step is now linked. The data from the ship connects to the data from the storage tank, which connects to the data from the wholesaler, all the way down to your local pump.
And that leaves us with one final thought. With this unprecedented level of information, Kenya isn't just regulating its fuel anymore. It's going to understand it in a way it never has before. So the real question is, how will all this powerful new data reshape the country's energy future for everyone?